Hi, this is Dr. Michael Bitzer from Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina, and I'm here with another political quick take talking about the trends in North Carolina's voter registration. These series of videos will be presenting little snippets of data about North Carolina politics, and I thought it might be helpful to kind of give a basic overview of where we are in terms of the voter registration dynamics here in the state as we're moving into the general campaign. Now, North Carolina has 10.5 million citizens. Out of that, nearly 7.5 million are registered voters in North Carolina. And if you go back to November of 2020, right before the general election there, you see a trend line of a nearly evenly divided state. Registered Democrats slightly more than the other major registered blocs, registered unaffiliateds, and then registered Republicans. We also have registration for third parties, such as the Libertarian, the Green Party, the Constitution Party, and no labels. But those third parties really amount to about less than 1% of the total registration. The bulk is among registered partisans, and the fastest growing group are registered unaffiliated voters. And in March of this year, we see that registered unaffiliated voters have overtaken both registered Democrats and registered Republicans. In fact, over the past now nearly 4 years, registered Democrats have lost about 200,000 of their voters. Republicans have basically been flat, but registered unaffiliateds went up from 2.4 to 2.7 million registered voters. And that is the biggest block of voters so far here in North Carolina as we head into November. If you take it by just percentage wise, again, back in 2020, the state was fairly evenly divided. Registered Democrats at 36%, unaffiliateds a third, and registered Republicans at 30%. This year, as of March, we see the slight drop among registered Democrats down to 32%, registered Republicans staying at their 30%, but registered unaffiliateds at 37%. And I'll have another quick take on those registered unaffiliateds and what we know. Past 2 years, so going back to last year and including this year, I wanted to look at the trend lines. What could we expect moving forward? And thinking about the 2020 election, going back to the start of 2019 throughout the 2020 election year, here were the trend lines for the number of registrants each month leading up to November of 2020. We see a spike in January of 2020. That was the inclusion of those voters who would be 17 at that time but turn 18 prior to the election. That's always kind of a big bump in an election year. We generally tend to see that happen in North Carolina. But you will notice by the time June, July, August of 2020, things really start to ramp up. And in September and October, we will probably see the bulk of registrations as we did in 2020. Now, for 2024, going back to January of 2023, we've seen a slight decrease in the number of monthly registrants. Back in 2020, for 2019 and 2020, up to this point, we had on average about 44,000 people registering to vote in North Carolina. So far from 2023 to this point, we have about 33,000. And we saw a pretty significant drop off in February. Now, comparing that to the 2020 February dynamics, I think we have to think about the competitiveness of the March primary in 2020, particularly on the Democratic side. This time we really didn't have a competitive presidential primary. So that probably accounts for the significant drop off in February 2024's numbers. I'll be tracking these numbers throughout the remainder of the general campaign leading up to November. I'll have some updates for you as well moving forward. Thanks as always for watching.